Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Wa ba'd. So, we are continuing from last week, and we had started a new surah. So, just a quick recap. Who knows which surah we're on right now? Anyone? Yes. An-Nisa. And what does Nisa mean? The women. That's right. So Surah An-Nisa, the women. And the surah before this, what number surah is this, by the way? Anybody know in the Quran? Number 3 is close. Number 4. Number 4. Good. And what was surah number 3, the one we covered before it? What was it? Imran? Very close. It's something Imran. Al Imran, which means what? The family of Imran. Very good. And does anybody know who Imran was? Who's Imran? No one knows who he was. He's got a surah named after him. Yeah. The father of Maryam. Very good. The father of Maryam. Okay. I'm technically the father of Maryam as well, but we're talking about the original Maryam. Okay. So the father of Maryam. And the surah before that was which surah? Surah number 2. Surah Baqarah. And what does Baqarah mean? The cow. Very good. And the easiest question of all, everyone, what was the surah before that? Surah number 1. Go. Oh, Yusuf. Fatiha. And what does Fatiha mean? Anybody? The opening. Very good. The opening. Because it's introduction, opening of the Quran. Very good. So last week we covered 4 verses. In verse number 1, it talked about how Allah has created everyone from a single soul and how all the people were created afterwards. So they all come from Adam. Then it talks about giving orphans their wealth and giving them, not playing around with their money if somebody is an orphan. And what's an orphan? Somebody who's lost their mother and father, or in the past, somebody who lost their father, because the father was the primary breadwinner, meaning they would make the money, they would support the family. It became very difficult without having father. And then verse number 3, it talks about if you cannot take care of the orphans, then you can go and marry other women. And it talked about the number. And then verse number 4, it said, give women, when you get married, give them their sadaq or their mahr, meaning their bridal gift. And if they give up some of it back to you, it's no problem. So we left off there. And remember, all these verses, most of these verses, we're talking about orphans. So we're going to continue again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse number 5, وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمُ الَّتِي جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ قِيَامًا. Do not give incapable people your wealth, which Allah has made a means of support for you. Okay? So what does that mean, incapable people? It means that if somebody is an adult, but they are very irresponsible, they don't know how to deal with money at all. It's saying, do not give them your wealth, which Allah has made a means of support for you. And your wealth is referring specifically to, we were talking about orphans. So it continues about orphans. So if you have the money and you're managing the money of orphans, don't give that money to supervise that wealth to someone who is an adult but doesn't know how to manage money properly. So it's very interesting, you know. Allah could have said 2 separate rules in 2 different verses, but He combined them in 1 verse together. So it's saying 2 different things. One, it's saying, make sure that you don't mess up the money that belongs to orphans when they're kids. So if their parents die and they leave them money, make sure you take good care of this money. And then on the second thing, there's a completely different rule. People who are not financially mature, don't give them money. And it doesn't just mean only the orphan's money. It means anytime, anybody's money. Don't give them money if they're not responsible. Now, there are some type of people who are not responsible, right? If some kids, if you give them $100 and you say, you know what, here, take this $100 bill and you can go buy anything you want. Some of them are not very responsible at all. And they will go and buy, 5 lollipops for $100, somebody will rip them off. Or they'll go give it in charity to somebody. And some kids are very responsible. And they'll go And they might do some business and they come back like, look, Baba, I have $110. I bought and sold something and I came up with more money. Some people are like that. And you know what? Some adults are the same way. Some adults are very responsible, and there are some adults who are very irresponsible. If you give them money, money will be gone. If you look at today, if you look at credit card debt and how much people take on debt and they buy things that they can't afford, and they say, I'll just buy this and I'll pay for it later. There's a lot of people like that in the world today, even adults. So what is Allah saying? Is that this idea of someone is sufaha. Safih means someone is foolish. But in this context, it means foolish when it comes to dealing with wealth. Then don't give money to those type of people, because جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ قِيَامًا. Wealth has been made a means of support for you, meaning in general. So this is a very interesting verse, because what it's saying is it's not restricted to the wealth of orphans. It's saying that everybody needs some money to live. And Islam teaches us that you need some money to live. Islam also teaches us, don't be so extravagant, always thinking about money. How can I make more money? Everything is about, in life is about becoming rich and having a lot of money. Islam says, don't think that way. But it also doesn't say, who needs money? Money is not a big deal. I'll put all my trust in Allah and it's not a big deal. No, Islam does not teach that. Islam teaches that you have a responsibility. You have to make sure that you're taking care of your family. You're making sure you're protecting your wealth. You're making sure that it grows properly. So it's saying that Allah has made that a means of support for you and your family and your responsibilities and everything like that. وَرْزُقُوهُمْ فِيهَا. No, this is a mispaste. Is it? Yeah, it's good. Yeah. وَارْزُقُوهُمْ فِيهَا وَاكْسُوهُمْ وَقُولُوا لَهُمْ قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. So instead of doing that, what you should do, instead of giving the money of the orphans to people who are incapable, what you should be doing is you should feed and clothe them from the money that you have and speak to them kindly. Now, why would you speak to them kindly? You should speak to them kindly anyways. But if some of the orphans object and they say, you know what? We're adults now. You know what? This money belongs to us. Our father died and our father left us behind this money. And now that we're adults, we want our money right now. And if you go and you check and you say, you know what? These poor kids, they just became adults physically, but they're not capable of their own financial affairs. So what do? You still keep on using that money to feed them and clothe them and take care of all their needs and everything. And if they object and they say, this is not fair, you should give us our money back. And if you're doing it really for their own good because they're in the category of not being responsible yet, then speak to them nicely and say, listen, this is for your own good. The only reason why we're not giving you this money is because, you know what, we don't want you to lose it, and we're just protecting it for you. And there are these type of, a lot of people, who have wealth, they put money into their children's accounts as a gift. And they have a trustee, they have a custodian account. They have a trustee over it, and the trustee is watching that money so that the person cannot get access to it, but you spend it on them, but they don't get access to it, because if they did, imagine somebody is very wealthy and they pass away and they leave behind $1 million to their kids. And their kids just reach the age of maturity, 15 or 18 or whatever it is. What are they going to do this? You know, some of them, 18-year-old, will be like, you know what? My father left me $1 million. I'm going to go buy the car that I've always dreamed of. And what's $1 million car? Does anybody know $1 million car? Ferrari, like maybe the high level Ferrari, or Bugatti. You're going to say Bugatti? Yeah. So Bugatti Veyron, for example, W16 engine with, 16-cylinder engine with quad turbos. It's $1 million. So someone's like, you know what? Always wanted that car. I'm old enough to drive now. I just got my license and dad left me $1 million. Let me go buy it. Good investment? Good idea or no? Horrible idea. Okay. So if you think someone is going to do that, you don't hand over the wealth to them. But you say, you know what? You need a car? Okay. We need some clothes. Here's some money to buy your clothes. Here's some money to buy your food. We're going to buy you a Honda because that is good for you right now. And the rest of the money, we'll be giving it to you over a period of time. So that's, Allah puts that rule right there of economics, but He mixes it in with people who get abused the most, who used to get abused the most. And who were they? They were the orphans, because people would come and a lot of people would die. Remember the mortality rate of men was extremely high in the past due to wars and due to so many other things. And that's part of the reason for the multiple wives that we talked about last week as well. So now it's not at the same level, but in the past, so many men are dying in wars and things like that. They're leaving behind children, and they're also leaving behind wealth. There's a perfect opportunity for people to come in and misuse that wealth. Then Allah says, وَابْتَلُوا الْيَتَامَى حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحَ. Test the orphans until they reach the age of marriage. Meaning, test their maturity level. Are they mature enough to be able to take care of the wealth that belongs to them? And once they reach the level of adulthood. So once they reach the age of marriage, then they can do that. And what's the age of marriage technically? So there's different, scholars have different. There's no clear-cut answer. Imam Abu Hanifa said it's 18 for men, 17 for women. His two top students, Imam Muhammad and Imam Abu Yusuf Shaybani, they said that it's the age of 15. Right? So then this idea of reaching adulthood and what should be the correct age of marriage be, and some said it's the age of puberty and it can be lower than that and all of that. فَإِنْ آنَسْتُم مِّنْهُمْ رُشْدًا فَادْفَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُم. Then if you feel that they are capable, meaning they're capable of good judgment when it comes to financial affairs, return their wealth back to them. So the goal is to test them. How do you test them? Give them a little bit of money. What would you do with this? Let them go spend it. See what they would do. They seem to be very capable people. Give them their money. Don't hold on to it because it's not your money. You give it back to them. It belongs to them. وَلَا تَأْكُلُوهَا إِسْرَافًا وَبِدَارًا أَن يَكْبَرُوا. Do not consume it wastefully or hastily before they grow up. Because once they grow up, they have a right to get it back. So what did some guardians used to do? They used to have a lot of money that belonged to orphans, and they were kids, and they were spending it on them. And what they would do is sometimes they would be mixing their money with that money and saying, you know what? This poor boy, he's 7 years old, his father passed away, left him a lot of money. You know, he needs to live in a really nice room. We should give him a good room. He should live in a good house, and he's living with me. So therefore, let me upgrade my house and upgrade the entire kitchen to marble, super marble, nice kitchen. Let me upgrade the bathrooms to have like, those fancy Japanese toilets. And you spend like $100,000 into the house. But guess what? You didn't just do it for the kid. You benefited yourself because you upgraded the whole house. So people would do this. And it says, do not try to, when they start getting close to adulthood and they still got a lot of money, don't be like, let's spend this money really quickly so that they don't get all of it back and we can still benefit from it in some way. Don't do that because they're about to reach the age where they're going to get entitled to get all of their money back. وَمَنْ كَانَ غَنِيًّا فَلْيَسْتَعْفِفْ. Whoever is well off, they should not take any compensation, meaning for their work as a guardian. That means that people who are not well off, they're allowed to take some money. So imagine there's a situation where a lot of people die and they leave behind a lot of orphans, and someone has to take care of them. So taking care of them is not that easy. It takes time, it takes effort. It requires some work of like distributing the money to them and things like that. So you're actually allowed to take a portion, some money, because of the effort that you're doing to take care of these orphans. And so Allah says, but if you have a lot of money, if you're well off, don't take any money for that work. Do that voluntarily as a charity. وَمَنْ كَانَ فَقِيرًا فَلْيَأْكُلْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Whoever is poor, let them take a fair amount. What is a fair amount of money? According to the work they did. Like how much money does this work normally earn? You have to figure that out, whatever that is. It could be minimum wage, it could be a few $100s, whatever it is. فَإِذَا دَفَعْتُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فَأَشْهِدُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. When you give orphans back their property, have witnesses. So when they become old enough and they're mature enough, they're not going to buy a Bugatti with $1 million, and you're about to give them the $1 million back. What should you do? Have witnesses. Because what can happen is, it could happen that if you don't have witnesses or you don't have some way of proving that the money was transferred over, then the person come and say, get the $1 million and say, this person never gave me my money back. I'm still waiting for my $1 million. They have to give me another $1 million. So you have to have proof. And this is this is a very important principle in life. That whenever you're dealing with money, you're dealing with transactions or something, it's always good to either have witnesses or to have signatures or to have something written down. This is a very important principle. Anytime you're buying something from someone or you're loaning someone, write it down. Because sometimes people forget. I don't remember you gave me that money. I don't remember loaning you my computer or whatever it was. I don't remember that. What if you forget? Or what if you deny? So it's always good to have proof. And they used to do witnesses in the past because not all of them knew how to read and write. Now, if you can read and write and you have like a digital signature and you could have like a cryptocurrency, crypto token, like a non-fungible token that like automatically, proves that this transaction took place, great, you can use that. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ حَسِيبًا. Allah is sufficient to keep account. So even though you have witnesses, remember, Allah is the one who's watching everybody. He's going to take account of everybody. If someone tries to play any tricks or games or says, I don't forget or something like that, Allah knows. The next verse. لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ. For males, there is a share in what their parents and their close relatives leave. For females, there is a share in what their parents and close relatives leave. Now, this is really interesting because Allah didn't have to say it this way. He could have just said, people have a share of what their parents left and their parents and relatives leave. This is all about inheritance. Inheritance means when you die, the money that was yours, as soon as you die, that money is no longer yours. Because can you take that money with you to the grave? No, it's not going to do anything. All the money you had in your pocket, all the money you had in your car, all the money you had under your bed, all the money you had in your bank accounts and everything, that money does not belong to you anymore from an Islamic perspective. Even if it's in your pocket, it's not your money anymore. The moment you die, it belongs to somebody else now. Who does it belong to? Who does it go to? It goes to your relatives, your parents and your close relatives. So that's what inheritance is. Now we're going to go through the rules of inheritance in detail because it's mentioned in this surah. So how much does everybody get? You do not get to pick. You do not say, you know what? My daughter was very nice to me. I'm going to give her $1,000. My son, he was nice to me sometimes. I'm going to give him $500. And you know what? My brother, he was really mean to me. He gets nothing. My mom, she was nice. She gets this much. My dad, he put too much pressure on me in school. He's not getting this much. You don't get to decide. Allah decides. Allah has set specific shares of how much money each person is going to get. But what he does is he gives an introduction here. Men will get a share from their relatives, and females will get a share from their relatives. You know why this is so important? Because when the Qur'an was revealed, in most of the world, women, how much inheritance did they get? Zero. They got nothing. And it says males. It didn't just say men, it said males. If you're young, you still get inheritance. In most of the world, children did not inherit. So children did not inherit and women did not inherit. So what happened was this verse is very revolutionary. For a whole sentence to be there and says, and females will be inheriting from their close relatives. This is something you did not find in the majority of cultures. You don't find it in the Roman Empire. You don't find it among the Greeks. You don't find it among the Hindus. You don't find it among the Chinese. You don't find it among the Babylonians. You look at all the major civilizations and you don't find that there. So this was really revolutionary. مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرٍ. Whether it is little or much. It doesn't matter how much money you leave behind. Your near relatives are going to get some of that money. You can't say, it's not a big deal. It's not that much money. There are rules that Allah has set. You have to follow those rules. نَصِيبًا مَفْرُوضًا. It is a required share. Meaning this is a requirement. Mafruḍa is very important. The word mafruḍa comes from the word fard. And when you pray, you probably heard that there's sunnah prayers, and then there are fard prayers. What are sunnah prayers? What does it mean, a sunnah prayer? Allah didn't command us to do it, which basically means it's recommended, but it's not required. What's the difference between that and a fard prayer? What is that? Wait, I didn't even hear him. When you put your hand over your mouth, it's much harder. You have to do it. Exactly. So the same word here, nasiban mafruda, you have to do it. And I'm going to say this 3 times. You know why I'm going to say it 3 times? Because every time in the Muslim community, somebody comes and tells me, someone always asks, they say, you know, inheritance laws in Islam, do we have to do it? Mafruda, fard, you have to do it. Say, but yeah, can I pick though? Fard, you have to do it. Say, but you know, do I get like, what if this and what if that, and can I do a little bit of change over here? Fard, you have to do it. You have to follow Islamic inheritance laws. It's not an option. You got to do it. It's like prayer. You got to do it. So, and I hear this all the time from some of the most educated Muslims. They don't understand the idea that inheritance laws are mandatory in Islam. You have to follow them. You can't get around them. وَإِذَا حَضَرَ الْقِسْمَةَ أُولُو الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينُ فَارْزُقُوهُم مِّنْهُ. If some relatives that are not inheriting, because they're not close, they're not near relatives, if they're relatives, or there are orphans, or there are people who are needy, they're poor, and they're present at the time when you're distributing the inheritance. This used to happen physically. You know, people would have a sum of money, this many gold pieces for you. You're the father, this many gold pieces for you. You're the son, this many gold pieces for you. So if other relatives come, because there's a burial, and after the burial, you know, there's a funeral, you're distributing the inheritance money, and they're there and they're present, and some orphans show up, and some poor people show up. It says, offer them something from that. Just be nice. This is not a requirement. This is optional charity. Be nice to them, because you know what they're watching? They're watching, wow, this family had so much money, and look, they're getting this much money, they're getting this much money, and they're sitting there, and they themselves are poor. And if they're watching and they're sitting there, say, you know what? You can give them a little bit. You can give them, you know, you can give them something. So give them something, and you know, it's going to be fine. So this is about, no, for anyone, this is optional. So what's interesting is it says farzuquhum min. Farzuquhum means give them. When it says give them, it's amr, meaning it's a command. But in this case, all scholars have looked at it and said this is a command, which is a recommendation. It's not an actual command. So it says give them something small if you can, and if you want to. It would be nice if you did that. But what are you not allowed to do? So this is who's going to give it to them. It's not the person who's distributing. The people who are receiving, imagine you're a son or you're a parent, and you just inherited $200,000 from your deceased, you know, child or something like that. That's a lot of money, and then you see some poor people there. It's saying, you know, give them $100, give them $500. You just inherited so much money, and they're there watching it. Give them something, and it won't hurt you if you're giving them something. So the people who inherit, give them something. Who cannot give something? If there are children. Wait, do children inherit, by the way? Do they? Do children inherit? Yes, they do. Children inherit. Do women inherit? Females inherit too? How about female children? Do they inherit too? They do. They inherit as well. So if children are inheriting, can someone come along and say, you know what? Okay, let the children give some charity to these groups of people as well. Can they do that? Can they? Can the children give in charity to these people? Say yes? No, they cannot. Why? Because children, when they inherit something, they're not given full control over that wealth. And you cannot make decisions on their behalf. And if they say, yeah, I want to give, you know, that poor person over there, I want him to have a Bugatti. Give him $1 million from my thing. This is why they're not allowed to be giving charity like that. If they have a small amount, you know, their parents approve, they can do it. But if it's their money and someone else is taking care of them, no, they should not be. So they cannot be taken advantage of that way. وَقُولُوا لَهُمْ قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. And speak to them kindly, right? So if there's not enough to give them some gift or something, just say something nice. Sorry, we can't help you out right now. You know, inshallah, may Allah help you. So you can say something nice rather than We're not giving you anything. Don't ask us for something. That's not the nice way to say it. وَلْيَخْشَى الَّذِينَ لَوْ تَرَكُوا مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّةً ضِعَافًا خَافُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. This is one of the most difficult verses to translate. Okay? So this says, let the guardians be as concerned, meaning for the orphans, as they would if they were to die and leave their own helpless children behind. So let me explain what this verse is saying. This verse is talking about orphans and saying, you know what? Understand an orphan has lost his parents and there's nobody to take care of this child. Now imagine there's not much money left over and someone needs to take care of this child. So not saying, imagine you were that person, that you had children and you died and you didn't have much to leave behind for your children. How would you feel about your own kids? Even though you're dead, how would you feel that your own kids are not being taken care of? You'd feel horrible. I wish someone could take care of my kids. They're saying you should be as concerned when you see an orphan as if it was your own kids and you were to pass away and you wish someone could take care of your kids. Make sure to take care of the orphans that way. Okay, that's what this verse is saying. وَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْيَقُولُوا قَوْلًا فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْيَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. So let them be mindful of Allah, meaning never harm an orphan. Always try to be nice to them and speak honorably. Speak honorably to comfort them, to say nice things to them. Okay, so whenever you can, you have to be extra cautious and extra careful about dealing with them because they're in a situation of difficulty, in a situation of weakness. Next verse, last verse. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ أَمْوَالَ الْيَتَامَى ظُلْمًا إِنَّمَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ نَارًا. Those who unjustly consume the wealth of orphans are actually consuming nothing but fire into their bellies. Meaning, if you try and steal the money of an orphan because they're in a weaker position, you know what you're actually eating? You're not eating wealth. You're not consuming wealth. Because when you buy wealth, you actually eat, you buy nice food from it. And the idea of consuming wealth, when you spend it, it's like you're taking it for yourself. It's almost like you're eating it. And saying, you know what? You're actually eating fire into your own stomach. Why are you eating fire? Anyone think why? Yeah. It's not yours. Why specifically fire? Why not ice? Do it? Hellfire, exactly. So the next part, وَسَيَصْلَوْنَ سَعِيرًا. They will be burned in a blazing fire. If you do that, you're on your way to hellfire. Because you're doing something so severe. You're stealing people's money, but not only stealing, you're stealing from the people who are in the weakest position. And this is something that is absolutely horrible. So you should never do that. So Allah is warning, giving all these warnings about orphans and how you need to be very, very cautious and careful about the wealth of orphans. So inshallah, I'll take 2 questions maybe, and then we'll start the bucket or the bucket. Okay, I'm going to be starting a bucket. So you can get your devices ready if you need. I'll take 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Anyone have any questions before we begin? Yes. Yeah, it's a good question. So the guardians of orphans' wealth, they have 2 responsibilities. One, they spend it on the orphans themselves, so they don't have to spend their own money. They're spending their money, so when they reach adulthood, a lot of the money will have been spent on them. And if they're investing it and trying to make sure that it doesn't keep going down, wise, careful investments, they're going to be giving over whatever's left from that. Hopefully something that's increased rather than decreased in value over time. Yes. Okay. One more question before we start? Yes, question? Is there a recommended use for inherited money? No, it's like having your own money. So you take care of it. It's always good to save a third, spend a third, and maybe give like a portion in charity or some other type of investments in some other things. Anything you can't do with inherited money, and as long as it's halal, it's your money. Okay. Isa? What do you mean by give them back their money? So when somebody dies and they leave their children who are still young, they leave money for them. someone is going to manage their money and not give it directly to the kids. And then when they grow up, you give it back to them because it actually belonged to them the whole time, but you are keeping it for them. So you're giving it back to them. That's what it means. Okay, good question. Ready? Okay. So any other questions while we load up the bucket? Yeah, so you're saying in some cultures, Indo-Pak culture, and you said Arab cultures as well, they deny women the inheritance by doing what's called wasiya, a bequest, and they bequest some of the wealth away. We're going to cover that in detail, but basically there should be no trick to get around and deny anybody wealth. So I mean, this unfortunately, I didn't know this happens in Arab culture. This happens in Arab culture too. It does happen in Indian culture. I know that for a fact. The only reason why I knew this is interesting story. I read the biography, autobiography of a scholar by the name of Sheikh Akram Nadwi, a very famous scholar. He wrote a 57 encyclopedia on women hadith scholars. In his autobiography, he came from an Indian village, a village in India, and he was put into a special school called Nadwatul Ulama, one of the schools I studied at, and Dr. Mazamma Siddiqui graduated from there too. And in that school, he learned Sharia, he learned Islam. And then when he went back to visit his village, and he visited his family and everything, came back and he noticed one day that, hey, all the people in his village, and they're all Muslims, all the people in his village, they do not give any inheritance to women at all. And he came and he said, you know what? This is haram, what you guys are doing. This is wrong. Like, you know, you need to, this is a Hindu culture. You're not allowed to do this in Islam. And his family's initial response was, we sent you to Islamic University so you can come and preach to us that we're doing something wrong. We didn't send you over there to get a degree so you could be all fancy degree, come back and tell us this. But then he said eventually over the years, he was able to convince his entire village that what they're doing is completely wrong. This is Hindu culture. This is not Islamic, you know, and they should not be doing this. And they eventually changed. But I was just shocked to see that in 20th century India, in an entire Muslim village, everyone is Muslim in the village. Not a single person was practicing inheritance law. They were following Hindu inheritance laws instead. It's pretty shocking. We'll cover wasiya next week, inshallah. Wasiya means you have up to 1/3 portion to distribute. But the key point is you don't get to distribute to the people who are already receiving a fixed share. That's the thing that people don't understand, right? So you can say, you know what? I want to leave $1,000 to my best friend. As long as that's not 1/3 of all the money you have, it's less than 1/3, you can do that. Say, I'm leaving $1,000 to my best friend, but my kids will get the percentage that they get, and my parents get the percentage that they get. You are allowed to do that. But you cannot say, okay, my son is going to get this percentage according to Sharia, according to Islamic law, and I'm going to add $1,000 to him. You cannot add on to people who are already inherited. Okay, ready? Start. What email? I have no idea. Any other questions in the meantime while we load? Anyone?
There's a my sent to your email.
No, send it to you. I don't log into mine publicly. Who is going to participate in the bucket? Anyone? One? Got teams, right? One team? One team? Two teams? You're trying to load? Okay, you got two teams. Three? You got team three. Is you're team four or you're part of team three? Part three. Okay, team three. Anyone else? Hmm. No space. No space. Mhm. Any other teams? Bucket team? Bucket team? Okay.
10,
Anyone else? No? Okay, how many questions? All right, 10 rapid fire questions. Are we ready?
by time
Just
or by
whatever's faster.
you get to pick. You pick how much time you want.
30 seconds.
No, not for the whole game.
For the whole
The game
game?
will end us from time or somebody reaches
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
10 questions.
7 minutes.
30.
No, we don't. It's 9:20.
Just like that.
Whatever they can do. Let's see. Ready? It's gonna show, right? Okay. Pick one. Gold Quest was the easy one, right?
Last one we
No, not crypto. No. Wait, Gold Quest. No, it takes too long.
okay. So time 7.
Go.
7 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Alright, choose one.
Okay. Starting? You started already? Okay, it is started. There's no way to see what's going on though, huh? There's no way to see what's going on for the users. Yeah, that's what I don't like about Booking. Uh, anyone else not logged in yet? Get in, get in. In yet? It's taking so long. You gotta choose. They give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No, skip your character. Go, we're starting. Go start. Start. Starting. 3, 2, 1. Start. I don't know. We're excited. Let's do Kahoot from now on. No more Bucket. I don't know why you chose Bucket. No, we did it one time. It's not as good. The Elmo team. You have a prize? All right. The first place team gets a prize. We have a special prize by the way. And everyone else gets cookies. Gotcha. That's why we're not gonna do bucket again. We're gonna do Kahoot from now on. Yeah, I don't know why. This was the second time, and we learned our lesson the second. Can you read out the question? That'd be great if you read out the questions to everyone.
I don't know where everyone is.
What do you, everyone? Doesn't matter where they are. To the people who are not playing.
I'm not gonna say the answer.
Yeah, no.
So for those who are not participating, if you want to know what the questions are, I have them over here.
We're gonna read the questions out loud.
Okay, so the first question is, who are the incapable people being referred? So question one is, who are the incapable people being referred? Question two, how should we deal with the incapable people? Question three, until when should you test the maturity level of orphans? Four is, what is advised not to do? Five is, what should you always have when you give orphans? Question six, how do you determine how much money to give orphans when they grow up? Question seven is, how much more money to male gifts than female orphans? If relatives, orphans, or the needy are present at the time of distribution, what should you do? Question nine is, how concerned should the guardians be for the orphans? And question 10 is, what do those who unjustly consume the wealth of orphans actually consume? All right, just really quick question. I want to know who is who. So who is the Elmo team? Who is IROX? Who is the Brown Boys? Who is Bozo? Where's Bozo? Team M. The Elmo. Gaza. Who's Gaza? Where's Gaza?
Where's Gaza? Gaza? Palestine. Yeah, there.
And who's Ibrahim? Anonymous.
1 minute left.
Spike's point. That's second.
10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. Time's up.
Who's the Brown Boys? Are the Brown Boys?
Yeah.
The team.
Good job, Brown Boys. What was it? What's the gift? Reese's? MashaAllah. You know, during the distribution that just took place, there are other people here that are poor, orphans. فارزقوهم. Give them a portion. They were present at the time of distribution.